Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today we are returning to the Opinel number 8. One of the most legendary pocket knives the world has ever seen, believe it or not. If you are familiar with my channel, you'll know that I am not a gigantic fan of this knife. That's putting it mildly. I have made lots of content poking fun at this thing over the years, and I don't think anybody really expected me to make this video today, but I want to return to this and talk about the Opinel number 8 and talk about whether or not it's worth buying in 2026. I want to give you guys my honest thoughts about it, not sarcastic, crazy goofiness. I want to, give you guys my real thoughts, because the truth is, this knife has stayed down here in this little YouTube studio with me for years. It is always here. I get it out. I actually use it here and there. And there are good things about it, but are there enough good things to justify it? It's pretty inexpensive, so some people might be thinking, yeah, obviously for that price, right? But I've got my opinions on it. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me. Make sure that your notifications are turned on for the Metal Complex YouTube channel. So the Opinel number 8, obviously there's a whole bunch of different Opinel numbers, right? You can get them, you can get smaller ones, you can get bigger ones. So the Opinel 8 is largely considered to be the just right size. That's going to be a matter of opinion, but it seems like this is the most popular one. They have the Sandvik stainless steel, they have the carbone, and then they have a bunch of other different versions that you can get, but they still cost about 15 bucks. Like the most basic one you can get on Amazon. In fact, I'll link it if you guys want to check it out. For a lot of people, it's like, it's $15. Like, I'll own it just to say that I own the Opinel number 8. There's plenty of, in fact, there are people watching this video who will do that right now. Just because it's a legacy knife, right? And there's plenty of people who say, oh, no knife collection's complete without the Opinel. I would very much disagree. Yeah, I mean, like, for a lot of you, it will be a no-brainer. It's like 15 bucks. Who cares, right? This is definitely, however you think. This is the most popular one. The Opinel is basically a big piece of wood, and then it has the ring lock. So there is a pivot, you just don't have access to it at all. It's technically an integral. Nail nick, and it takes a while to get it out. Mine's actually gotten a little rough over time, which we'll talk more about. And then once it's out, you turn this ring, and then the blade can't go anywhere. Now, the lock is just keeping the blade out. I think it goes without saying, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. This knife is not meant for any type of heavy-duty task. This knife is meant for light cutting. Normally I say light to medium. In the case of the Opinel, I'm going to say light. This is a very thin blade, which really helps out with puncture and slicing tasks, but there is really not a lot of reinforcement behind the blade, in the pivot, the locking system, and the blade itself is going to be pretty delicate. That is just factually true. There are a lot of things that can hurt this knife and make it inoperable, or at least make it not work as well. But that is the gist of it there. Let's go ahead real quick and we're going to measure it. So the overall length of the Opinel number 8 is, 7.5 inches. Your blade length is about 3 1/4, and your cutting edge is also 3 1/4. We're going to do just a couple of size comparisons here up against my own knife, the Compact Excalibur, the Ontario Rat Model 2. We can also put it up against something like the Spyderco Para 3. I think that's a good one. And what else do I have that's right around the same size? The Sage 6, great knife. We could also do some less expensive stuff, like the Porcupine. We could do the Vacor. Vacor is a great, inexpensive knife from Migron. I think you guys probably, maybe one more. Should we do the Pyrite? Pyrite's a good, inexpensive knife. Okay. How's the action? This is one of those things that really makes me dislike it. But the truth is that the knife is fine. It's a very basic pocket knife. It's not special. People will claim that it's special. I find it incredibly not special. It is about as unspecial as a knife could be. But one of the things that annoys me about this knife is just how long it takes. I mean, by the time I get this thing locked all the way out, there's a 10% chance I'm going to forget what I needed to use it for. It takes so long. I mean, yeah, it's just seconds. You could say I'm being dramatic here, but like pull it out of your pocket. And it, by the way, it doesn't have a pocket clip, so it's just flopping around in there like this. I can't stand that. If it doesn't have a pocket clip, I'm not going to carry it. I know people think differently than me, and it doesn't bother them as much, but I'm not going to have a floppy piece of wood in my pocket. That's going to be a quote that people are going to love to repeat in the comments. Great. I'm not going to carry this if this is how it's going to be, right? But let's say I'm carrying it. Okay, well, it's time to get my knife out. If for some reason I've locked the ring lock in the closed position, it adds another step. Most of the time, you're not going to have that be the case. Most of the time, it's going to be like this, right? So make sure your ring is unlocked. Then we're going to open it. And mine's a little stiff. We'll get it all the way out. Make sure that it's all the way out. Don't get it to here. Get it all the way out. And then you need to remember which way the ring lock turns, and then you turn it into place, and then you're ready to go, right? In the case of something like the Spyderco Para 3, we are out, we are in, and we're back in the pocket. I mean, the amount of time it takes to do that and to have a substantially stronger locking system is insane. That's a much more expensive knife, though, right? Well, what about something like the Migron Karoq, a $37 aluminum-framed, button-operated liner lock that we have proven to be very strong. D2 at 62 to 63 HRC. It's the exact same thing, right? Deploy the buttons. Modern pocket knives have basically... they've put themselves in a territory. Migron in particular and a few other companies have shown that by bumping up just a few dollars, the amount of money that you save on the Opinel is such a severe downgrade to convenience that the vast majority of people will see value in something that literally costs more than double because it's really not that much more, right? Now, if we were comparing a $200 knife and a $400 knife, that's a much different deal. But in this case, we are comparing a $15 to $18 knife to a $37 knife. And there are plenty of knives in between that are decent enough, right? But if we're gonna bump up to the first like incredible recommendation, most of the time I'm gonna tell people just for the fact that it is so unbelievably slow and inconvenient to deploy. We didn't even take the time to put it away. I would say just save up a little more and buy from the first good tier of true modern EDC budget knife territory, right? Just the action alone, for me, is enough to say no. Now, the knife cuts really well. It doesn't, the steel's nothing special, but the geometry of the blade allows it to cut very well. And it will, even when the blade isn't really even sharp anymore, which truthfully, mine isn't. I've always stropped this thing back to life. It's very easy to strop back to life. I mean, my God, the steel is not incredibly hard, or it doesn't have, you're not dealing with like crazy carbides or anything like that. It's very easy to bring back to life, and it will stay sharp. Even when it's dull, it's still sharp because it's so thin. The geometry of the blade, it just allows it to cut and cut and cut. So every time I reach for this thing, I know it's going to be sharp enough to cut. This type of object is much better suited for the way that I use it. And that sounds very snarky, like I'm the only one using it correctly and everybody else who's using it the way they're using it is wrong. You can use it however you want because it's yours, right? I think the Opinel 8 makes way more sense as a knife that you leave in one place and then you use it when you need a knife and you're near the Opinel. The Opinel is not a knife that you bring with you. Your pocket is a lot more valuable. The space in your pocket is a lot more important, and it should not be bothered with being filled with something like this, or even partially filled. You should put in your pocket the thing on your person that you carry every day. You should put something that is far, far more capable, far less frustrating, far more convenient, etc., etc., etc. A lot of what bothers me about the Opinel, because people have asked me, like, why do you have such a massive beef with the Opinel? There's tons of content where I always joke, like, the Opinel's out on the table with everything, and I start to talk about the greatest knives of this category or whatever, and then I jokingly stop, pick up the Opinel and look at it, like, why is it even here? And I throw it, right? And I make it seem like I'm destroying it in every single video and in every time it always comes back. In reality, it's just an incredibly unremarkable object, and for $15, it's fine, right? I don't really have that much against the Opinel. I mean, there's the Opinel company is a legacy company, and I think that these things probably were, I don't know, like decades ago. I think these knives were probably far more, it was much more of a reasonable thing to, for somebody to like EDC these. I just think like versus what the competition, right? The EDC pocket knife world decades ago was so much different than the Opinel would have been viewed as a much more utilitarian object, a much more, capable object. But by today's standard, it's not, even at $15. The biggest issue that I have with the Opinel is not with the Opinel at all. It's, the same with a lot of different companies. It's the weird cult-like fan base. Whether you are new or you are, you've been around for a long time, we've all seen that guy in the comments or on the forums or whatever, who swears that the Opinel number 8 is like the greatest EDC folding knife of all time. I still see content on YouTube where people list like the best EDC knives of all time, and they have the Opinel in there, and it's bizarre to me. I'm like, do you really think that, or are you just doing that because you're afraid that people will call you out for not including it? It wouldn't make a top 10 here, a top 20, a top 50, or even a top 100. The Opinel is just a $15 knife, an incredibly unremarkable $15 knife. But the reason that I constantly throw pies and joke about the Opinel is because people seem to blindly select it as this superior object, when in reality, it's just most people, if you bought this or you're considering buying this, what you shouldn't do is buy it. What you should do is just spend more on an actual serious tool, right? One that will, honestly, it'll last longer and it will be more convenient. I mean, largely the convenience factor. It'll carry in your pocket the way that you want to carry it. It'll have a more durable locking system and a more durable blade, right? Thin geometry is great, but it doesn't need to be credit card thin most of the time. Some people might need that. It doesn't need to be. But also something that, is more resilient to the elements. This is made of wood, and within the internals here where the pivot is, this is very, very susceptible. Wood expands and contracts, hot, cold, wet, dry. Wood doesn't do great. And while this has been treated, right, and there's different types of wood that they offer, it absolutely is something that will be affected if you're going to use it outdoors. 1,000%. Modern pocket knives use incredibly resilient materials, especially on the lower end, the competitive end. They will use your GFN, FRN, your strong chemical, heat and cold resistant injection mold plastics, your fiberglass, based G10, which is also hot, cold, chemical resistant. Your aluminum, which is usually type 3 hard coat anodized, and micarta, which is fine, but gets a little slimy. But all of those materials I consider to be absolutely superior, and in most cases, these materials are backed up by incredibly stainless steel liners, which not only add strength, but they add, like, it's just a sort of a solidity to it and a reliability to it. I mean, if you get these things a little bit wet, obviously, something like D2, you don't want to get it wet, right? But Migron also offers, like what is this? I keep wanting to say Karok, but that was the last one. It's the one that's just like the bug out. And I'm using a couple of examples here from Migron, right? I mean, but if you could use QSP, you could use Vosted, you could use Civivi, Sencut. There's countless. CJRB, there's tons of different companies that offer really good budget knives that range anywhere from $30 to like $50. All of these are going to be more durable, more reliable. You don't have to worry about them nearly as much most of the time, right? That's like in terms of what you're cutting or how the blade geometry is going to be more durable. The locking system is going to be more durable. If you get a little bit of water on it, who cares, right? I mean, you can just blow it out and be fine. But the wood over time, I have to imagine, even just down here sitting in my office, I've noticed the action on this has just gotten like really, really tight. And I don't like that there's no way to adjust this. It's just, there's going to be plenty of people saying, I've had mine forever and it's totally fine. Maybe you have. There's no way to adjust it. The other thing that bothers me is I can feel the blade, like pushing on this, the blade is actually grinding against the wood on the inside. Like the blade is touching. That's me moving it back and forth. The edge is actually touching, not just the blade on the sides. The edge is contacting wood. You can hear it grinding against it. I don't like that. Definitely not. So no pocket clip. It is a big chunky cylinder. It is incredibly slow. It is not resilient to outdoor weather. At least, obviously you take care of your tools, right? But you're going to be babysitting something like this. This can survive a camping trip, multiple camping trips. It can survive that. It just depends on how willing the user is to babysit this knife and make sure that it's clean and dry, for sure. If you are lightly using it in dry weather and you're just using it as this little camp tool, like a little. I think what this would be really good for is like something that you keep in a junk drawer in a camper. Something that you use to chop up a tomato or some food or whatever, right? You chop up a couple of sausages or something. I think it makes decent sense for that. Light food prep when you don't have access to a full kitchen. That makes perfect sense to me. For sure. But again, not something that you keep on your person. That should be reserved for a knife that's more versatile and more capable. I think that this is much more of a specific use type of thing than people claim it to be. But I know that there are people who carry this and only this and they've made it work. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think people can kind of choose what they like. But I think there's a better option for those people. I think they're making do with this and assuming it's the best thing, when in reality, it's nowhere near optimized. There's a better option, but it's okay if they just want to keep using what they like. That's what it comes down to. Whether you agree or disagree, right? If I'm, if I am pointing things out that make you curious about, possibly checking out a different knife. Maybe this is your specific EDC, and you just love everything about it. You don't want to even think about whether or not there's something that could possibly be better. You just want to believe that this is the best thing, right? Perhaps I've said some things today that have made you a little bit curious. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, just enjoy what you enjoy. This video is not to convince people who already like the Opinel that they're wrong and that the Opinel is bad. I'll give my opinion and then you can disagree, and then if you want to, and that's perfectly fine. I don't care. If people are already enjoying what they enjoy, I think that that's perfectly fine. There's no reason to change your mind, right? If you're curious, check other stuff out, because there definitely are better things out there. But if you're new and you look at this thing, you've heard like, maybe you're like deep diving into the knife world and you're kind of integrating into the community. You're following a bunch of different Instagram, YouTube, TikTok pages. You're getting into the forums. Many times in many discussions, you've heard of this Opinel 8, and you've gone to look it up and found that it looks like this. And you think, wow. Oh, what does it do? And you hear, oh, the geometry, the blade geometry. That's about it. The blade geometry. It's got good blade geometry. That's it. It's $15. Pretty cheap. That's really it. Is this something that is that I would recommend to a newer person? No. I mean, it should be completely and totally obvious. To a newer person, I would say, maybe 20 years ago, this was a lot better buy. But the knife world has so thoroughly surpassed this. It has so thoroughly moved on. Not in the mega upper tiers or the super magnet, whatever, transform. Nope. I'm talking about the plain old budget knife world. The plain old budget knife world has so hilariously passed this by. This is a jalopy. It is a jalopy. And now, like you look at a Toyota Corolla from 2026, is so hilariously more advanced than a jalopy. Model T, whatever the oldest types of it. This is hardly even a car. This is more like, a horse-drawn carriage. That's. I mean, if we're going to compare it to an automobile, it's just barely in the same zone, right? I mean, it goes, and you don't have to power it. But a 2026 Toyota Corolla is going to be a lot better. It costs more, but it's. I mean, like the amount that it costs more, the relationship between how much more it costs versus how much more it can do relative to the the horse-drawn carriage. I mean, it's worth every penny more, right? That's a very dramatic example. This is not a very dramatic example. A modern tactical folding knife is so vastly superior. Just the convenience of opening and closing the thing, that right there is enough, right? Your performance, durability and it doesn't have to be this knife. There's a million different knives, right? The materials, just the reliability, that knowing that this thing doesn't. It's not like allergic to the outside. I know I'm being like that's being really like over the top, but I just feel like there's so many things that can cause the Opinel to become inoperable, or at the very least, like just not operate, just become more frustrating to use. The nail nicks in general, like they suck. I think I can open and close this knife 10 times, 5 to 10 times before I get this thing out once. And that right there's going to be a deal breaker for me. So if you want to own this knife to just say that you have the Opinel in your collection, that's fine. And it does make a great junk drawer knife. It makes a great, toss it in a junk drawer and you use it to open a package, or throw it in your camper and you use it as a light food prep knife. I think that's fine. And for people who are already using it that way, there's going to be people telling me like that's the whole idea. Maybe. But you also have hundreds of thousands of people who EDC this and swear that it is the ultimate pocket knife, and that any evolution in the industry that occurred past this was completely and totally unnecessary. There is a cult-like fascination with this knife, and it is completely and totally unwarranted. It makes absolutely no sense. This has to be a population of people who has refused to even try anything else. It's the only way that you come to that conclusion that this is. And I know people say, "Oh, those people don't exist. You're just being, really like you're just exaggerating." I'm not. I'm not exaggerating. I have seen this in my comments for years. It is wild. The Opinel obsession is absolutely real. I think it's fine to enjoy it and appreciate it for what it is, but to assume that it is one of the greatest pocket knives of all time is absolutely insane. No. $15. There's nothing wrong with picking it up, using it casually. It's got pretty good geometry and it's really easy to touch back up. Outside of that, I wouldn't expect much from it. It's not going to, it's not a miracle cure for your EDC needs. It's just a basic pocket knife. So that is how I feel. That's the honest, from the heart truth of it. I would recommend that you save up and bump into the $30 to $50 tier. I have a playlist called Cheap Knives I Like that is loaded with pockets. It's got 250 plus uploads of pocket knives that are all under $75, and a huge chunk of those are under $50, some of them under $40. That is where I recommend that you go to buy your first good, true EDC pocket knife, your pocket companion. Your pocket deserves something like that. That's going to be it from me today, guys. I lost that leather card. Oh, here we go. I lost the leather card, so now I'm using this one. It goes to TikTok. But I also am on Instagram. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.